Purdy does it again. 49ers are division champs, into the playoffs. Probably at least the number 3 seed. Hopefully they'll catch Minnesota to get number 2 seed. But there was a lot of comments, and I just want to say I appreciate all the views, all the comments in this last video with Brock Purdy. It's been like awesome to see. You can see my channel is like a tiny little channel, and to get that much traction in one video was awesome. So I'm doing the second video, and there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's one game. It doesn't matter. Like, you can't go judge a person by one game." But this is the second game, and it was in a hostile stadium. I know the Seahawks have been struggling lately, but with all the crowd noise and stuff, he still performed great. The game wasn't as great as the game against Tampa, but there was no turnovers. Luckily, that one turnover got called back with the penalty. But there was like no turnovers. He did what he was supposed to do. You could see Shanahan clamped down on him this game a little. There was a lot of short passes, and CMC was running a lot. There was not many passes over 10 yards. Like I said before, I thought Shanahan would do this to him, but he had a couple of passes down there with the breakup of coverage, and Kittle got free, and one to Ayuk. But Purdy did what he had to do to win that game and perform. The defense was awesome. The defense was the one that won that game, and they should have been 28-3, man. This roughing the passer thing is like insane. Like, Bosa just like gently landed on him. He didn't like slam him to the turf. Just gently landed on him. They call roughing the passer. I miss the days of the 80s. I used to watch a lot of the 80s was my main football watching career with the 49ers, and it was awesome. I know the teams, there weren't that many great teams. It was NFC East. The Bears were good for a little bit, but it still brings a tear to my eye seeing Montana get wrecked by the Giants. That one hit was, oh my God, that was a crazy hit. And Steve Young getting pummeled by Arizona, that was his career with the concussion, ended his career. But nowadays, like, they should just put an orange jacket on these quarterbacks and have like 2-hand touch. Because this is like, it's roughing the passer. It's just stupid. And I know they're trying to protect the quarterbacks. There's not many good quarterbacks out there. But this is football. This is a violent sport. And it should be played that way. Take your chances. Speaking of that, CMC, man, every time he ran the ball, I cringed because, like, is he going to get hurt this time? Is he going to get hurt this time? He needs to stay healthy for them to win. Like, they ran the ball. I was surprised how much they ran the ball with him. And they didn't have the backup running back running until the very, very end. I think they should mix it up a little. You need to save him. You can't be running the games like this. And Shanahan was worried about the oblique injury. The Purdy looked pretty good. It didn't look like he was troubled at all about any injury. So they got, looking at the box score, like, he had basically the same stats as the last, like, against Tampa. Well, it seemed like he was a little better with Tampa. Just so, like, I guess it was just those breakdowns in coverage that allowed him to get those touchdown passes. But in the end, he looked good. He's good enough. I think he's good enough to get into the Super Bowl. I don't know if he's good enough to win. I really think the Eagles are not. I think they're gonna crumble in the playoffs. Personally, Dallas is always a playoff choker. This is not the early 90s anymore. They can't win in the playoffs. So I really think the 49ers, if they stay healthy, they get Debo back, they will go to the Super Bowl. I'm very excited about this year. Does anybody think anyone could stop them? I know it'd be tough. It'll be real tough in Philly with that home crowd in the possible NFC Championship. And I think the 49ers are going to catch Minnesota to take that number 2 spot. I don't know if anybody's going to beat them like the rest of the season. We saw it last time. The Commanders, I don't think the Commanders are going to beat them. They got a big game this weekend against the Giants. And the Giants are not that. They're overachieving. Vegas, I think Vegas is going to give up by the time they play to Vegas. And they'll beat Arizona because Arizona's completely going to give up. They're not going to win with Colt McCoy. So I think the 49ers are going to run it out the season, get that number 2 seed, face Philly in NFC Championship, and I think they'll beat Philly. But the only problem is either Buffalo or Kansas City, which I think are going to come out of the East. If they get out to a leads early, the 49ers they don't have the offense to catch up. They need to get that lead, and they need that defense to pummel the opposing side like they've been doing the last 7 weeks. It's crazy the way the defense has been playing, and they haven't been giving up that many points. 10 points against Seattle was almost equal to the amount of points given up in the second half to the last 6 games. They given up 14 points in the second half in the last 6 games, and those are garbage touchdowns. And you could actually say this was a garbage touchdown for Seattle, but I just don't see anybody doing good against this defense. So Purdy is good enough. I'm glad they have him, and it'll be something if he does do good and roll into the playoffs and do good in the playoffs, if he's going to be starting over Trey Lance next year. But that's a long time ago. That's a long time away from here. So right now, I'm just going to enjoy this role, and hopefully they won't pain me again like in the last few years in the Super Bowl and the playoffs. So I'm hoping they could finally do it this time. And so thank you for everything. Subscribe, like, comment, and I'll talk to you later. See ya.